Welcome to the Challenges of Change, the podcast where we explore the transformative journey towards self-improvement and personal growth. I'm your host, Laura, a mindset coach in the health and fitness industry, here to guide you through the hurdles that life throws at you. In each episode, we'll delve into practical strategies and insightful discussions to help you manage stress, regulate your emotions, upgrade your mindset, and ultimately reclaim your sense of worth. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey of change, challenges, and self-discovery. And we are back for another episode of the Challenges of Change. And it's just me today. And we are going to talk about invisible forces. Ooh, I just totally sounded like a ghost. I was inspired by one of the books I'm reading because ADHD brain, got to meet my brain where it's at and read multiple books, obviously. And the book I'm going to talk about is This is Strategy by Seth Godin, about making better plans and considering the new year is upon us, good time for planning. But there is a specific quote that really stuck out to me, so I'm going to read it to you. It says, like gravity, the systemic forces on us are invisible and feel normal. Culture is the enforcement dynamic of resilient systems, and culture is the way things are around here. The invisible and sometimes visible pressures of systemic, we don't always know, we rarely think about the fact that gravity is active in our lives. Like we know it's there, but we don't feel it unless maybe you've been an astronaut and been in outer space, and then maybe you feel it. But for most of us, we don't really have that experience. So we don't even think about the fact that gravity is constantly weighing on us. It's an invisible force that keeps us quite literally grounded. So let's take that to different systems, right? There are invisible forces pressuring us to conform. So if you work in a company that they preach, with quotes, preach work-life balance, but they expect you to answer emails at like midnight, those two messages are kind of contradictory, right? So if you hear your bosses say, no, we totally believe in work-life balance, but then when you're not responding to emails at midnight, you're getting negative feedback, you're going to notice an accumulating force over time of, I feel pressured to answer my emails beyond my limits. Let's take it to family dynamics because this exists everywhere. There are certain norms in different families, whether it's how you show up, if you show up with a gift, if you show up at all. If you don't show up, there are pressures that you experience. So we are constantly kind of this like singular thing that is being pulled and pushed around based on the systems of the culture that we are in. And we can think of it as microcultures even. But the one I want you to think about is the one that actually lives within you. Because as you know, I'm all about becoming the inner leader within yourself and really using your mindset to free yourself from the systemic pressures because we can't change everything outside of us. But what we can do is change how we relate to our external world and how we lead ourselves. And if we're really looking for a sense of agency and creation in our own life design, that's kind of where it starts. So I want you to take a moment, just think about this. What are the pressures that you put on yourself and why? Maybe it's I have to make sure all the dishes are clean before I go to bed. Maybe it's that I need my email or my inbox completely clean before I go into a new day. Like we all have these kind of preferences, right, of how we like to maintain a sense of order in our lives. I'm not saying all of them are bad. I'm just saying notice the pressures. Okay. So notice where you have these kind of unconscious filters that operate as a system of how you keep order in your life and consider the pressure you experience because of them. So I was having lunch with a friend yesterday and this came up. And she made a comment, I'm always so impressed how organized you are with your ADHD because she also has ADHD. She's like, I'm always forgetting things. And I kind of laughed and she's like, what? I'm like, I'm not organized. I'm chaotically disorganized, but I've learned what organization is for me and how it works. And ultimately, it's about getting it done for me. Do I always like the system that I have? No. Does it work? Yeah. Is that the most important factor for me? Yeah. So let me break it down. When I was trying to navigate certain complexities in my business, I had preferences. I wanted to make sure I got my studying done. I wanted to make sure I got my marketing done, my email campaigns, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And that was making me feel pressured to pull all-nighters, which is not very healthy. And I was feeling the weight of those all-nighters. And so I just had a moment where I'm like, I can't keep going like this. Like, it's meant for a push here and there, but not for months. And so I looked at the pressures. Where was I adding unnecessary pressure? And a lot of what came up when I was looking at that is where I didn't trust myself. I was afraid if I didn't adhere to the system I created, if I didn't make sure I got my setting done, if I didn't make sure that I finished my marketing by X time, that I wouldn't be able to hold myself accountable to it. So I was afraid because I couldn't trust myself, but I was also craving perfection because that is the system that I learned growing up meant success. But that system wasn't working for me. And I can almost guarantee you, if any of you are working in systems that you grew up with, of how you motivate yourself, how you keep yourself organized, some of them work. Almost all of them need an upgrade. I can guarantee you that. So, how this unfolded for me is I made a list of all the things that I preferred, and I commented on what I was afraid I would lose if I didn't adhere to the system I originally was operate under. And then I picked one. Right. Okay, it genuinely is scary to change it. So I picked one thing, not needing to get my studying done like by that time, but changing the time to the end of the week versus the end of the day. And it was uncomfortable. I was stressed. I would randomly sweat. I'm just going to be transparent about it. And then after a month, I realized, huh, I'm actually exactly where I had hoped I would be with my studying. Okay, so I don't need to do it by the end of the day. If I extend it to the end of the week, I can have more flexibility in my schedule. So then I went back to my list. What else can I do? And slowly, one by one, I started to realize I can adjust the pressures to make it more adaptable to my life. But that wasn't the big aha. The big aha for me was as I was doing this one by one, what I learned was my brain, although disorganized, has a way of reminding me of what's important. It's not always top of mind. Like I need probing to get it out sometimes, and that was part of what I've learned. But I've noticed how my brain will keep certain things in it and how it won't keep other things in it. Like certain tasks that don't have emotional impact or meaning to me, those go in the post-it chaos system, which is you can't see it, but it's all behind you. If it has something to do with a person or something to do with helping people or something to do with people I love in general, I almost always remember it. Maybe not exactly when I wish I would remember it, but it always is there. So I was telling her, I don't have this brilliant organized system. I've just learned to understand who I am, the systems that were I was operating under, how they were creating unnecessary pressure, and how to work with the natural isms of how my brain actually is. So coming back to that quote, right? The last line, the invisible and sometimes visible pressures of systemic gravity offer us status and affiliation if we will stick with the culture. Let's talk about culture because we just talked about pressures, right? As it says in the line before that, culture is the way things are around here. Something in common culture that bugs the hell out of me is ghosting culture. I get it, but I don't like it because it feels very disrespectful and it feels, to me, cowardice. Now, have I done it? Yeah. And I'm just going to call that route right now. But I think how and whom you do it to matters. If you're a random person trying to reach out to me to sell me something and I don't respond to an email, technically that's called ghosting in my mind, but you never actually earned your right to my time and attention and my energy. And it's nothing about that individual person per se. It is that there's a relational component to this, and just blindly emailing me isn't going to get my time and attention. So if I don't respond, I never agreed to it to begin with. So I think there's an unconscious agreement. Now, if you're dating someone, if you're in a friendship with someone, and the dynamics of the relationship need to change, a lot of people just slowly fade into the distance or they will ghost. And I understand that it's easier, it's more comfortable that way. It's also more disrespectful, and it's because you're scared of conflict. And that's okay. This is my view. That does not mean it has to be your view, but this is something that happens in culture. We do it more because other people do it. It's how things are done. It's acceptable. It's not demonized. But if we look back to what used to be acceptable in culture, it used to be acceptable to rape your wife. It used to be acceptable that women couldn't have credit cards in their own name. It used to be like there are so many things of our past that used to be acceptable that are horrific to think about, right? So just because it's acceptable in culture today doesn't mean it's in alignment with what's best for you. And that's where, coming back to you, I want you to think about not just the pressures that you're under, but how many of them are yours and how many are coming from culture. You need to be perfect. Says who? Who said that? What happens if we actually get into a conflict? I know it's uncomfortable. I don't really like it myself either, but what I have learned is whether I like conflict or not, it's inevitable. So I may as well use it to learn, grow, and actually make a stronger connection versus avoid it and actually make the situation more toxic. So these are all decisions we're making every day. And when we're making them, even if we're not choosing, we're still choosing. We're still not making it. So we're still having the impact and the effect. But the culture of how you operate in your life, how you relate to people, how you show up for people, how you show up for yourself, how you speak to yourself, what you tolerate within yourself, the system of what makes you feel like you, and how you conform who you are to meet the external cultural narratives. These things are happening to us every day. It's like gravity. We don't even notice it, but we feel the impact of it. We feel the toxicity of certain components of our culture, both internal and external. We see the components of our systems that do and don't help us, and yet we continue them. Now, that's part of human nature. That's how we grow and evolve. So the fact that that's happening isn't the problem. It's that we feel powerless to it. That's the problem. And the first thing we can always do is get clarity. Even if you listen to this and you don't do anything with it, that's still going to help you move forward. Now, if you really want to do something, actually make your pressures list and see what happens. And once you make it, that doesn't mean you have to do anything with it. But you'd be surprised how just seeing things makes it a lot easier for the brain in general to find clarity and stop drinking the Kool-Aid of misguidance, so to speak. So, to read the quote one more time, like gravity, the systemic forces on us are invisible and feel normal. Challenge what feels normal. Culture is the enforcement dynamic of resilient systems, and culture is the way things are around here. What is that for you? What is that in your home? What is that in your career? What is that in your friendships? What is that within yourself? And the invisible and sometimes visible pressures of systemic gravity offer us status and affiliation if we'll stick with the culture. We feel like there's a code of conduct of how things get done, and we're scared to go against that code of conduct. And I get why. I am too in certain ways. But it's not about never doing it. It's about choosing when it's the right opportunity to do it. We're about to enter into a new year. You've never had a better time to really think about the culture inside of you, the preferences you have, how that creates pressures, the systems that you operate under, and the purpose of those systems. Are they trying to keep you organized? Are they trying to motivate you? Are they trying to make sure that you're honoring the characteristics of the personality you cultivate? Like, what is the purpose of the systems and why are we blindly adhering to them? If we don't challenge these things, we will feel like a victim to them. Our greatest power lies in our awareness and our sense of choice. If we feel like we don't have a choice, that means we are adhering to some rule. This is the way it is. Challenge the way it is. That's how change is created. And this is all about the challenges of change. Wherever you are on this journey, meet yourself where you are. And if you are serious about making next year a new version of how you relate to yourself, a healthier way of communicating with yourself, a healthier way of showing up for yourself, a kinder way of motivating yourself, then I strongly encourage you to check out the Challenger Circle. It is so much fun in here, I just got to say. And the Challenger Circle is the community that the Change by Challenge hosts. It has so many different things that you can't even begin to imagine how supportive, how easy it is to be accountable. We have a whole different section for playfulness because we got to laugh at this shit. But above all else, the relatability and hearing other people's stories, it has amplified so many people's growth already. And I've seen so much inspiring change. If you want to understand systems and you're struggling, that is where you should go. And the first 30 days are quite literally free. Why not start January off with a bang and take 30 days for free in the Challenger Circle to see what does and doesn't work, see the visible and invisible forces, because it's hard to see everything within yourself from yourself, or is how I normally like to say it. You can't see yourself squat from the back, but you still need that view to see if your form's accurate. How we relate to ourselves, the systems we operate under, the pressures we create, that creates our life experience. To me, that's valuable enough to challenge and to make sure that we're finding alignment for ourselves. But that is all I have for you today. Challenge the system, find clarity, relieve the pressure, whatever happens, be the change you hope to see. Until next time. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Challenges of Change. If you're ready to stop stressing and reclaim your sense of worth, be sure to visit my website at www.changebychallenge.com. There, you'll find loads of resources, blog posts, and information on how to work with me, Cora, as your personal mindset coach. Remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. Don't let burnout or any other obstacle hold you back from living your best life. Take the first steps towards positive transformation today. Thank you again for listening. Stay confident, stay inspired, and embrace the challenges of change. Until next time.